Yo, 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 what's up, my people? It's your boy, the one and only Dayvito. And guess what? I am not the host with the most. That's actually my boy right over here to the right. His name's Jerome Colbert. Come on with it, baby.
What's going on, people? We are glad to be back again. And I'm just going to tell you guys, if this is the first part that you're watching, make sure you go in reverse and watch the other three parts. This has been an amazing conversation about loving thy enemies, and we're going to wrap it up with a lot of heat still to come.
Oh man, listen. So first week we talked about what is an enemy. Second week we talked about what's the purpose of an enemy. Last week we talked about when does an enemy not become an enemy. And now the $1 million question: how do you love thy enemies? So, man, listen, this has been one of those topics that I think we all think about, but we don't really discuss. Perhaps we just kind of chalk it up as just normal, and maybe we don't really peel back our own onions in our own lives as far as our own enemies, our own problems, and the way that we react and treat them. But man, when I was thinking about how to answer this question of how to love your enemies, it really spoke to me, because sometimes you got to go through it in order to be able to talk to somebody through it as well. And so I'm gonna get real personal. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna get real transparent, and we're gonna peel back this onion today, man. But you know,
I'll start with the first process of loving your enemies, right? And probably the most fundamental way that you can love your enemy is to pray for your enemy.
Oh, come on, man.
Get on your knees. Well, you don't have to get on your knees. Just speak. Speak to God about the situation that is happening with a particular person, a particular situation. And like we always say, God will pray. You pray through it, God will get you through it. And just know on the other side of those prayers, He's hearing you, and those prayers will always be answered.
Bro, it's so funny that was your first point, because I was in preparation for this episode.
You know we stay in sync, man. That's how we roll.
Great minds think alike, man.
Right.
That was actually my first point as well, is to pray for your enemies. And guys, this is a difficult thing to do.
Yeah.
Because when you think of somebody as your enemy, you don't typically wish well on that person. You know what I'm saying? I know a lot of people who are just like waiting for the day that somebody's downfall happens so that they can rejoice and actually thank God for it, that it actually happened. And in the Bible, you know, the people of the Bible, their enemies was God's enemies. And you see where God's justice has actually kind of played itself through into the end, from the Egyptians to the Babylonians, you know, and so on and so forth. You've always seen somewhat of a downfall of God's enemies, right? And so I think a lot of Christians, a lot of believers, they almost pray for that downfall of someone else. But when you think about how to treat and love your enemies, that's not love. That's not love to me. And so the idea of praying for my enemies is hard, because you want to, I don't ever know what to say. But one of the things that has absolutely helped me out when I've been praying for my enemies has been to just pray for them by name. I don't have to necessarily say like, hey, give them $1 million and a big house and just let them live happily ever after, right? At the end of the day, I want God's will to manifest in their life the same way that I would want it to manifest in my life, your life, my friend's life, my people's life, my kids' life. Like, I want God's will to manifest in their life. And so sometimes a simple prayer of just saying, hey, I pray for XYZ, I pray for so-and-so, that's enough, you know what I'm saying, to be able to actually pray for your enemies. Because what I find, and correct me if I'm wrong, maybe you're with me, maybe you're not, right? But I find that it's hard to stay mad at people when you're actually praying for people.
Oh, that's exactly what I was getting ready to say. A lot of times people don't know how to pray for their enemies, but you pray for your enemies just like you're praying for yourself. And even if you're angry at that person, exactly what he just said, is that releases that anger for you, because you're trusting in God, and you know God is loving you through this process. So God is going to open up your heart to love on that person no matter what the situation is. So you got to keep that, you know, focus whenever, you know, you're finding yourself in those situations, man. Prayer is powerful. Prayer changes a lot of things. So it can change your heart. It can change that person that is the so-called enemy's heart, and, you know, open up them to being a person that could deliver love and start praying for other people.
Yeah.
And that's powerful.
I mean, shoot, it can turn them into an ally.
Yeah.
They may end up being your best friend. They might end up being your prayer partner. You know what I'm saying?
That's nice, strong alignment.
Ooh, come on now, man. We're gonna have a whole nother episode on alignments, man. But yeah, they could end up being an alignment for you. Real talk. You know what I'm saying? You know, for me, I think that if you want to take it a step further, you know, if you don't just want to pray for them by name, or maybe you don't want the will of God to take place in their life, right? Then at the very least, I think that what we should pray for is the transformation of that person.
Yeah.
Father, transform their mind. Father, transform their heart. Father, transform my feelings and my emotions towards that person,
right,
so that I can love them and see them the way that you see them, and love them the way that you love them. See, that's the thing. A lot of times we give people their titles, right? Oh, well, that's my ex. Oh, that's my baby mama. That's my baby daddy. But maybe that's how you define them, but that's not how God defines them. God sees them as their child. And it's hard to see someone who has done you so dirty, right, as a child, the way that you would maybe look at your child, right, with those eyes. But that's the way that God sees them. And so one of the prayers for me is that the Father transform them so that I can see them with your eyes, and that I can love them with your heart.
Gotcha. Man, and so something just popped in my head about just the whole topic of loving thy enemies. A lot of times, we said it earlier, it could be the closest people that are in your life that become the so-called enemies. And what happens is, God forbid, a situation where that person is no longer here, right? And you think back to those moments where it was something that was reconcilable, and you didn't take the opportunity to pray for them, to love on them a little bit more, and that opportunity is missed.
Facts, man.
Man,
and you know what that is? You know,
it's heartbreaking.
To me, you know what that is? To me, that's the difference between giving somebody what they need versus what they deserve.
Absolutely.
And I think a lot of times we live in regret because we want to give that person what they deserve, but what God is really calling us to do is to give that person what they need. And that may look at many different ways, right? For, you know, maybe somebody deserves judgment, right? But can you be the one to give them mercy?
Essentially what we're saying, the whole episode, loving people, because those opportunities to love people can be gone.
Absolutely.
Why would you want those moments, those precious times where people, heavenly people, God's people on earth to be gone because, you know, you didn't squash a beef?
Yeah. I know so many guys that have talked about, you know, their dads, and, you know, maybe they didn't have a good relationship with their dad, or maybe their dad was absent or wasn't in their life or something like that. And then their father passes away, and they still feel the pain of that loss.
Absolutely.
Even though it was never really in their life, but they still felt the pain of that loss.
And that holds that person, right?
Yeah.
That holds them.
And then they live in regret because it's like, man, I should have, I could have, but I didn't.
Yep.
And it's so hard to get out of shoulda, couldas, and wouldas.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely, man.
That's what I'm saying, man. You can't give people necessarily what they deserve. Like, you are not the judgment giver, right? You don't hold the mallet. You're not the judge. At the end of the day, you know what I'm saying? Somebody may deserve judgment, but it's your responsibility to give them mercy. You know, perhaps this situation occurred in your life simply so that you can give them mercy when they actually deserve judgment. When everybody else in the world has given this person judgment, you've given them mercy. Perhaps your response to them was with understanding and not with anger and not with emotion. Perhaps that person deserves condemnation, and everywhere that that person has gone, there's been a finger pointed at that person. There's been blame issued to that person. That person walks around with the fig leaves of shame and guilt and hides, won't even look at themselves in the mirror, and yet it's your responsibility to give that person forgiveness. Maybe forgiveness starts with you. Maybe forgiveness was only given through you, and through that forgiveness there's evidence that God is actually real, and maybe the seed that perhaps falls on hard soil but has an opportunity to grow and an opportunity to flourish. Maybe that's just me. You tell me.
No, that's amazing. And I was gifted this little coin phrase, and it's be a lovinaire, right?
Oh, come on, man.
Loads of people want to be millionaires and billionaires, but being a lovinaire is loving everybody, loving yourself, loving the world. Lovinaire, man, we love them.
Bro, I love that, man. We're going to have to make some shirt or something, man, that says be a lovinaire, man.
Might be already taken, but, you know, we might get some royalties off of that.
Absolutely, man. I think that is so spot on, man. You know, God has called us to love God and to love people. And so
we keep going back to that, right?
Bro, you have it's the most important commandment. They asked the Lord, they asked Jesus, hey, what's the most important commandment? And he said, love God, love people, because it literally encompasses everything. Everything in life. If you just show love, man, it'll literally, and you know what? There's no limits to love.
Right.
Love is endless. Love is limitless. There is no capacity. There's no cap to love.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's the gift that keeps on giving, man. And in the spirit of love, one of the things that I heard very young as a kid, we can't make a t-shirt out of this one, unfortunately, man. But one of the things that I remember very, 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 very well as a kid growing up was the phrase, kill 'em with kindness.
Ooh.
Kill 'em with kindness. Listen, throughout the years, it's meant very many different things. I think of so many different situations that I've gone through where, you know what I'm saying, it was hard to show kindness, or maybe I gave a little here, but withdrew a little there. Ultimately, you know, after everything is all said and done, I believe that when you show someone undeserved kindness, that is when you're the most like Jesus.
Man, I'm going to throw a plug at your daughter, Janiyah. You showed me something at church that she wrote. Be nice and be kind.
That's right.
That's amazing, man. And those principles, those foundations, they start at an early age, and they're in us. Killing with kindness was something that was coined years and years ago. And if we continue to walk that journey, we continue to be Christ-like, enemies don't become enemies. They become people that you love and become people that the world helps change and makes a difference.
Bro, you know what I've learned, man? You know what I've learned? I've learned that kindness in the face of conflict kills them.
Yes.
Not you.
Yes.
You get to thrive, but that person has to sit there and be like, I can't believe this.
Right.
Like, it just leaves this impression of like, man, I shouldn't have done that.
Right.
Man, maybe I did take a little over the top this time. Maybe I shouldn't have reacted that way. Perhaps there was a different method that I could have used on this one.
Right.
And it's just so powerful, man, because for me, the most thriving marriages, the best marriages are the ones where you show kindness when maybe you can complain, or maybe you can point a finger and say, hey, why'd you do that? Or whatever whatever the case might be, right? You play that back and forth game, but kindness in the face of conflict kills them, not you.
Right.
That's my thing, man. That's my thing right there, man. So, man, this is my favorite part of the show, man. This is I've always enjoyed takeaways, man. It's something that you know, we go on trips. My family, you know, when we anytime that we go anywhere, man, or we have an experience, we always say, hey, what was your takeaway from this? Sometimes we have conversations and we ask, hey, what was your takeaway from this conversation? And for me, man, this is the part of the show what we call Dead on Dayvito. And for me, man, I think about Ephesians 6:12, and I want everybody to, I'm gonna look at the camera specifically, man, because I want to actually talk to you guys about this, man. But don't ever forget who the real enemy is in the face of all things. It may be disguised as a problem, it may be disguised as a situation, it may be disguised as a circumstance, maybe even a feeling. But I can tell you with certainty that the real enemy is the enemy that is spoken of in Ephesians 6:12, which says, for we are not fighting against flesh and blood. We are fighting against evil rulers and authorities of the unseen world, against mighty powers in this dark world, and against evil spirits in the heavenly places. Listen, how people treat you is not a reflection of who you are. It's a reflection of who they are. People cannot love if they don't love themselves. People cannot be kind if they are not kind with themselves. And sometimes the worst critic is the voices in our own heads, and therefore we project that to the people that we say we love the most. On top of that, one of the things that I have discovered in life is that haters are literally the most unhappiest people in the world. If you sitting around talking about so-and-so and what they got on, or what they did, and why does this person get this and I didn't get that, and that's not fair, and this, guess what? Life's not fair. And the quicker you accept that, the quicker you can actually start winning. Be a problem solver. Don't be a problem maker. There's enough problems in this world. I guarantee you that problems are going to come whether you like them or not. Choose choose to be the resolution in every aspect of your life rather than being the problem to every situation in your life. I promise you, you will get a lot further in life and you will have much, much better results. And, I think about Jesus. Let's be real here, man. Jesus died for his enemies. He died for atheists. He died for Satanists. He died for all non-believers, from people of all walks of life, people of all cultural differences, different backgrounds, different languages. Even the people that you feel like you hate the most, guess what? Jesus died for them too. So eliminate that hate from your heart and be just like Jesus, that in the face where he could have actually cursed the enemies and cursed the people that hung him on that cross, his final words were, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." Keep in mind that vessels are used in order to be able to cause downfalls and trip-ups to other people. Sometimes we're mad at our wife, but it's not really the wife behind it. Sometimes we're mad at our loved ones. It's not really the loved ones behind it. Sometimes it's our kids, but it's not really your kids behind it. Sometimes it's the worst person in the world, but it's not the worst person in the world behind it. The real enemy is the one that you cannot see. The real enemy is the one that motivates, is the one that inspires and sows seeds of hate and jealousy and anger and envy and pride and ego. That is the real enemy. That's me, Dayvito, dead on. Hey, take us home, Jerome.
Yeah, man, that's amazing. Like, truly amazing. This whole episode has been based on loving thy enemies. And talked about it earlier, it just comes down to loving people differently for the people that they love differently and they see themselves differently. And it starts with us, even if we're in situations where we don't feel the love. Our job as God's children, as God's people, is to be that light in the world and to share that love with people. So this has been a powerful episode. A lot of information, a lot of love has been shared during this episode. Again, if you guys have any input, any insight, drop it in the comment section. We'd love to hear from you guys. And just stay tuned for what we got coming next, because the conversation and the love is just getting started. And we can't wait to hear from you guys.
Yes, sir. Listen, we are releasing new episodes every Monday for season 1 of Dead Religion. We are Dead Religion. My name is Dayvito. That's Jerome Colbert. And we are out.